Hi, my name's Erin Russek and I'm an editor at McCall's Quilting, and today we're going to do Block Builders Workshop. My project today is this really fun Dresden plate. I love Dresden plates. They are a great way to burn through your stash and make something really cute. And I have developed some tricks, and there's some really fun tools out there that you can use to make your Dresden plates, and I'm going to show you how to do all that. So here's my block. I just gathered a whole pile of scraps out of my stash of pinks and oranges, things that were just kind of too small to really do anything else with. That's what I really love about making these blocks, is you don't need a lot of any particular fabric. So to start with, I'm going to show you how I use these two tools. The first tool is the Easy Dresden ruler, and that one is great for cutting. And then this one is not really designed specifically for Dresden plates, but it's called the Prairie Pointer by Susan Cleveland. But what I really love about it is it makes pressing the points easy. And I'm going to show you how to do all that. So let's get started with cutting. The blades on this Dresden plate, you start with a 4-inch strip. So I already have cut a 4-inch strip here. And you can use this ruler and it can cut through. It's easy to cut several at the same time. I've just doubled my strip in half like this so I can cut 2 at a time, but I've been able to cut up to 6 at a time. Now to start, you have your 4-inch strip and you just line up the 4-inch ruler with one edge and you get this nice wedge shape. And this is how these Dresdens start. So I'm just going to cut this side. I'll move that away. And then I'm just going to turn it and that gives you 2 wedges. From here, I'm not going to cut all my wedges at once, obviously. I'm just going to show you how to cut and press one of these and how to sew it into a point. So the next thing you want to do once you have all your wedges is you're going to want to sew it. And to do that, you need to take the fabric wedge and right sides together, fold it so that these 2 points meet. And then you're going to sew, feeding the folded side in first, and you just sew right across the top. And it looks a lot harder than it is, but you just do this. And now you have the beginnings of your wedge, and from here what you want to do is you want to make sure that none of this bulk is going to show up in the point. So what you do is from the folded side, you want to cut a wedge out of there. So I get like slightly less than 1/8 of an inch from the stitching, and then I also cut off any extra thread. So the first thing I'm going to do now that I've sewn my wedge is I'm going to turn it. Now I have this little tool that I use for poking things, and any stiletto will do, but I start with my fingers and I get it turned right sides out, and then I just stick my little stiletto in there and kind of poke. You don't want to poke too hard for fear you're going to actually get poke through your fabric, but once you get there, you can use the Prairie Pointer tool to stick it in. And you can line that seam up with the center line, and then that gives you a really nice surface to press against. So I'm just going to hit it with my iron here. And that little metal wedge makes your points really sharp. So that's just a fun little trick for turning your wedges inside out that make the Dresden plates come together really nicely. The other trick, now I know these are both the same fabric, but that's okay. I'm going to show you how I sew 2 of these wedges together. So to do that, you just put them together, right sides together, and I always start at that pointed, the valley between the points where the fabric is folded over. Now here, there's a slight trick, because you don't want them to pull apart once you're sewing them, is I start with a few stitches, and then I back stitch once, just to keep everything nice and secure when I'm sewing it later. So So I'm just gonna sew a 1/4 of an inch. So now I have my wedges sewn together, and I'm just gonna pull them apart, and there you have the 2 wedges. Now I would sew all 20 of them together. Actually I would sew them together in groups of 10 and press them. From now I'm gonna show you how I put the whole thing together. So here is my background fabric. I've lightly finger pressed it in both directions so I can use those folds to line up my plate. And here's my finished plate. When I flip it over, you can see I have pressed all the seams in the same direction all the way around. And I am going to use those folds on those points to line up my plate. So I've put these 2 dark pink ones on this fold, and I've put these light orange ones here. And once I have that and it looks nice and flat, I am gonna glue it down. Now I like to use Roxanne's glue base to glue things down. And this is a great way to get your plates all ready so that you can just sew them. So I just take a little bit of glue and I plop it on each point and then just press it down. And that will keep your plate nicely held in place while you sew it. So I'm not going to glue every point, you get the idea. And then to finish it off, I have this center little piece. Now I fussy cut this flower out of a favorite fabric of mine. Also a scrap. I don't really have enough of this fabric to do anything with, but I thought it'd make fun centers. For doing this, I cut a template of a circle and I stitch around the fabric and I pull the fabric in and starch it. But one thing that I find really helpful with my Dresden plates is to take a very thin piece of batting and stick it in there. That way the puff covers up all those seams. So I will just glue that down too. Just a little bit of glue in the seam allowance will keep it nice. And I center that and glue it. Now once this is all glued, you can use your favorite method for sewing. You can machine stitch it or hand stitch it, and you have a really fun Dresden plate. So thanks for joining us. I hope you give it a try.